going to tell you about a Lincoln pin this summer. We're doing something called... Hey guys! We're doing something called Summer Strut this summer. It's a new model. So we have 13 artists here from June through August. And you can go to my website and see everyone has a link to a QR code, which is their online store. And they also have one amazing piece of work in the gallery to get you started in your shopping ideas. So anyway, I'm Debra Watkins, the owner of Lincoln Pin. I should introduce myself, so I'm going to just go away now because this is so weird, talking to my phone.
I'm not used to being in front of the camera. It's taken time to get used to being in front. Yes, that's cute. Well, I guess I can get started.
Sure.
I'm doing it really informal because usually if I prepare something, it's just too structured and then it doesn't flow. So anyway, I'm Greta Olivas. This is my work. I usually tell people that I don't know if my personal growth has helped my art or if my art has helped my personal growth, but I think it's both. I find creating art, just being creative, just totally puts us in touch with something deeper. So that's where a lot of this work comes from. The piece that I have right here is kind of a combination of the two different series that I have. This is my Ruin series that has the collage work in it. And the background on this one, like the one down here on the ground, is my Cosmos series. If some of you guys have been looking at the images from the, what is it, the James Webb telescope, I had everybody tagging me, emailing me, messaging me images of the telescope to see if I had seen the images. It's like, yes, I have. It's crazy how some of them really look like the images on there, but I think, I was thinking maybe I just remember being stardust as it was my thing. But anyway, my Cosmos series.
When you say stardust, what? Your city?
I think I just remember when I was stardust.
Oh, that was my name when I was in high school.
Oh, I love
it. Stardust.
I love it.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I love that though. I can see that. Yeah, my Cosmos series kind of came by accident. I was wanting to paint abstractly. I was drawn to abstract work, and I just didn't know how people created something out of nothing. And I realized that I had to just let go and play, because that's where the magic is. So one evening, I was at my studio late, had music going, I was playing, I was just letting the paint flow and just see what it would do. And I kind of liked where it was going. It's very watered down, so I just let it go and showed up the next day, and I was like, oh my God, this is magic. So I started seeing how much I could develop that. So that's how I've come up with the Cosmos series, which is kind of what's in the background here. It's very watered down acrylic. I tell people that there's just so many life lessons in my painting. Since it's very watered down, I have very little control over it. So in order for it to do its thing, I have to give up control and see what happens, which is a perfect relation to our lives, because when we try and control things, we realize that we can't do it. And resisting something is where we get unhappy, we have issues, and if I try to force the paintings, they just don't cooperate. So I just need to let them go and work with what's happening. So, and I think that's a lot of abstract work. So anyway, usually they have many layers. This one probably in the brownish, it has 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 4 or 5 layers of brown, maybe 2 or 3 layers of the turquoise on there. And I usually do watered down, thin. I drop alcohol, which breaks up the pigment, and it does the little circles. And I let them dry in between. So teaches me a lot of patience too, because if I don't have patience, I mess it up. So
is the aqua, what do you call it, the turquoise, is it like all underneath the cover?
It's actually just in this area right here.
Okay.
And it started out real light, real pale. Then I got darker, closed it in a little bit more so it's darker in the center part of the turquoise. And then I took the brown, kind of covering up the edges a little bit so you can kind of see where it is, but not everywhere. And I did start with the turquoise, then went to the brown. And this one on the ground, I'll pick it up. I started with the yellow. Usually I start with the colors in the middle. Yellow, this one has a little bit of a pinkish to it. And then red, several layers of red. I've learned that different colors with the different pigment content work totally different. Red was really hard to do that with because it has kind of a thick pigment content, and so it looks grainy almost. White will do that. Certain colors. Black or the blues I use have really, really fine pigment, and they just look like smoke almost in it. It just flows really fine, so it works much better. But I like challenging myself and seeing what I can do with it. Never know. The paper I use on these is National Geographic magazines. I treat them with Citrusol household cleaner, and I did not come up with that. If you look on YouTube, you'll find all kinds of tutorials. And it dissolves the ink, and so it makes really cool patterns. It only works on certain years. So I was doing most of my collage work with that. I'm changing it a little bit. This one, I started scanning them and doing laser prints. And in scanning them, I realized that I could change the colors up a little bit in Photoshop. So it would give me a wider range of colors to play with, because most of them would be browns or blues or greens, because National Geographic. So, and since 2020, and playing around with different things, I've come across doing my own paper with jelly plate, which is like a printmaking process. And I just use different colors. I still use acrylics. I roll them on the jelly print and just use paper, press it on there, and I create my own paper. And I use stencils, all kinds of things, and it's super fun. It's addictive because I have stacks of paper. But I'm liking just that I'm creating those from scratch as well. So it's giving me a bigger range of paper to be able to use for collage. Most of my Ruin series started out with a background more like this one, the drippy, more abstract, not the flowy cosmos. But some of them now I'm finding myself combining them. This one has an interesting story. First of all, if you've seen a lot of my Ruin series, you notice that there is music notes somewhere in them. This one does not. And at first I thought, oh, that's really cool, it was instinctive, and I just always put music notes, just a little piece of sheet music. This one was in the plan for it, and I totally did not do it. This painting, for one, started out, it was, I I think I created this in 2019. And it was when things were just crazy in the world, frustrating. The title of this painting is called Can We Find Our Way? And so anyway, it was created out of frustration and hope and wanting to change things and not knowing what to do. And so I started with the gold and the reds and the blacks, and I remember I was posting pictures and friends were going, "Are you okay? It looks kind of dark for you. Where's your bright colors?" I'm like, "I'm frustrated. I'm getting painted out." And so anyway, I absolutely love the way it turned out. But after I finished putting all the collage, I went, "Oh wow, my music notes are not in there." So got me thinking, what are the music notes all about? Why was it instinctive? And then I realized that the music notes are the voice. And in this painting, I felt voiceless, or like screaming and nobody's listening. And I was like, okay, that's what it is, because all these, the Ruin series tell a story. Usually the cosmos are about feeling, emotion, just what you feel inside. These tell stories, or wisdom, or something. This is, I forgot the name of it, a new dimension. And this is Can We Find Our Way? And usually they have a little bit of a story or trying to tell us something. And that's how I figured out. I mean, sometimes I do these things instinctively and I don't know why, and years later I'll figure out why I actually do it. And yeah, that music note thing, I knew that there was a reason for it. I said, well, I think it's the story or something, but when I missed it in one, I really realized what that meant. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, does anybody have any questions? So, I don't know.
Hey, IG, y'all have questions? You should send them over and I'll ask.
Yes.
If you have. Hey, Jane. Hey, Leslie. Hey.
Yeah, this one has like metallic gold in the background with the red, and I love the way it glows in between the black.
I know. So okay, you got a blank canvas here. Pretend.
Mm-hmm.
So do you paint the whole thing black, or what do you do?
That
picture, how did that come to be?
This one, I started out with red. I just started putting red everywhere. And
so there's red all underneath everything?
Not everywhere, just in areas. There might be some underneath part of the black, but I don't remember. And then I decided to add some gold just to add to it.
I'm thinking you use your hands.
I use my hands. I finger paint. I like to finger paint. Every once in a while I'll use brushes. I use a brush to apply this because I use clear medium. But almost all of them I use my hands. I use gloves sometimes. I'm lazy about that. I'm not good at that, but I should wear gloves.
It's my gardening,
yeah. And but I feel that sometimes it's something about the connection of my hands on the canvas creating it. It's almost like more intimate. It's coming from me. So yeah, I usually just spread it out. I use a squirt bottle.
Because it doesn't really show in the video, but this is like lighter here. So how do you, if you started here with red?
I started putting red, and then I added some gold. I will squirt water to make it do drips sometimes in places.
So this is
maybe not.
That's probably a drip, this lighter gold kind of spread.
Yeah, it looks like right here you can see some drips of the gold. And then,
sorry folks, I just wanted to come up.
I might bring it over and see if you can see it. And then I just added black. And I usually start out fairly thin and just keep adding because if I put too much, I can't take it away.
That's right, because you have to dry.
Yeah.
And it's like watercolor, because once it's there, it's done.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or I have to apply gesso and start over, which
yeah.
I've done.
Sorry.
But, yeah.
I
So,
was like, oh, it's so
and I
pretty.
love the drippy part, the little areas. Let me see if I can pick it
I
up.
know, it's such a shame. I don't know how to like.
Over. Tell me if you can see some.
So that's way better.
Can you see some of it on there?
Yeah. See that beautiful. I know. I just love how that kind of comes down and yeah.
See, move it around.
No, you're yeah.
Doing my Vanna White.
I know. It's just like it's like bing bing bing. I know. It's just like it's so pretty here. So it's not your hand so much doing the drip. It's the dripping out the paint.
Yeah, usually I'll apply it and then I will use my squirt bottle and let the paint drip down. And I just like the free flow of the paint because it's doing its own thing. It's going where it wants to go.
Do you have to like hold it up or do you just leave it?
Sometimes I have it on my easel, and every once in a while, depending on the color, if I like it, I have to lay it down a little bit so it won't all wash off. And it depends on how thickly the paint is put on. Like this black was probably not as watered down as I would do these. So it's on there pretty thick. And then when I squirt water, then it really picks up the paint and it makes it drip down. And some colors work better than others. But yeah, and
That's
sometimes I've learned how to try and control it to a point, but there's only so much control I have. I can't do the perfect, and I've thought about, I wonder if I could do realism and stuff, but I thought, I think it would stress me out because I would be so caught up in the details that I would be tight the whole time. And I like just co-creating with my paintings, basically, because they do their own thing. Yeah, they do.
I feel like you get a little realism in the collage piece.
Yeah, yeah. And this one, like sometimes the papers that I'll have will give me ideas for big paintings. Because this one, there were very few that I had some red in it, and I really liked it. So they worked perfect with this painting, but it was hard to find. And this was more, that one might have been laser print, that I maybe enhanced a little
So you
bit.
kind of add the paper after you get to pick the background.
Yeah, yeah. And they used to be more rigid and go all the way across, but now I kind of like this. It's like a floating island.
I would say islands in the sun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm copying that song on Instagram.
Yeah, and like these, the Cosmos series ones that I do, I usually have drops of metallic in them. And I use liquid acrylic that comes with a little dropper. I found that if it's wet, you get the splatter marks where it'll do the little splatter. Otherwise, it'll just do more like that splatter. You can't see it, but some of them will come out just as a dot if it's dry. So a lot of times I'll get it just damp a little bit, spray a little bit of fine water on there, and then just do the drips. And I like to do them from far away so they'll do the splatter. I mean, it's very active when I paint.
So, how timeline in this one over here? Like how, from beginning to end, about, you know, about how long it takes you?
Let's see, this one I think probably came together. Well, I probably was stuck at a certain point, I think, with this one. I wasn't sure where I wanted to go. But I would say maybe 2-3 weeks-ish. I probably did not work on it every day. Probably took me some time to figure out where I was going with it. This one up here, I think I had an idea with this one before I started, kind of. because I had created some other ones similar. So I kind of had a better idea. And this probably took a week or two, maybe, depending. I figured out that heat, humidity, cold, all affects how fast the paint dries. Another thing I can't control. When it's dry and hot, it works best. It dries pretty fast, so I have to work fast. Like big paintings, it's harder to do. I figured out if it's cold, it takes longer. Since I've been working indoors, actually, I thought summer would be better, but the AC's blowing, and so it kind of slows it down. So it's almost winter's better because the heater's going and it dries out the air, and so it works better. Because since it is watered down, but when I drop the alcohol, it leaves these little areas, and it depends on how fast it dries. Sometimes they start closing back up, and so I have to drip this alcohol again. And so they come out better when it's drier. So there's a whole science to it I'm figuring out over time.
So what's your practice like? Do you get up, have breakfast, go to your studio? I don't know, I'm just like...
Lately, it's kind of up and down. I think because everything is just so crazy. I've been taking a lot of time to learn the business part of everything. When I have the perfect days that work the way I planned, I would probably get up, have breakfast, change clothes, and go into the studio. And a lot of times I will either smudge or use incense in the studio before I start a painting. I have crystals everywhere, all over my house, so no matter where. Yep, I have those everywhere.
I think you maybe gave me this one.
Yeah. And, but yeah, it's important, yes, it's important the energy that I have around to work on it. But it's not only so much about just being in a happy place, because this one, I definitely was feeling a helpless thing, but it was about what can be done. And to me, this painting, when I finished it, it doesn't feel sad or hopeless. It feels like hope and just hope and things being born out of chaos. And there's gold in there. And so there's little pieces of, I don't know, like little jewels that will spark.
Hope. I know, it reminds me back to the universe pictures from the...
Yeah.
Because we're all born out of chaos, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And the best things. I mean, I came around doing a lot of this stuff from my life being in major chaos, and this is what turns out of it. So sometimes it takes that for us to realize what's really going on. Sometimes the only time that we are going to just stop long enough to figure ourselves out. Maybe sometimes my thing was, it felt like it took something major to make me stop thinking. Because with so many thoughts that it was almost like a short circuit, is what it felt like. So it was like I had to stop thinking to even know what I felt and where to go from there. And I think you have to sometimes be in that place to figure things out and figure out that it's more us than everybody else.
Did you have a series before these? Before the...
It was actually very Random. I was painting flowers, I was painting roses, I was trying to kind of loosely abstract photos because I wasn't sure how to create something out of nothing, which to me is what abstract work is, until I realized that it's more about what's inside us, or feelings, or just play. And I think that's one thing that I learned. I went to a workshop where I learned some of the techniques I use, and he said, give yourself permission to play. And I think it's in the play, which is creativity, which is where we learn. I had somebody tell me a couple of years ago that she believes creativity is our connection with the divine. And I love that, because I think when you're in that place and where you're just lost, you don't know anything going around you, you have no sense of time, and you're just so into that, that is the place where magic happens. And that is where ideas come from. That's where answers to something that you didn't know what to do, how to go through, or whatever. Sometimes when you're in that place, it's like an instant, and it becomes so clear what you were looking for. And I've been thinking, I was teaching workshops a while back. I kind of stopped with COVID and everything. But I'm feeling like I want to do it again. Mostly, not so much for artists to become, or people to become artists, but for people to get in that creative zone, because that's where the magic is, because that's where we can get in touch with ourselves. That's where we can get in touch with something bigger than ourselves. And we just don't give it, we're so busy working and surviving that we don't spend time to play like a child. And I literally finger paint. So to me, that's huge. And I want people to be able to experience that. And painting is not the only way to do it. That's just my vehicle, and that's what I know how to do. So I'm thinking about, I'm trying to come up with a name. That's kind of getting stuck in my head, but once I do that, I'll probably do a Facebook group that people can join. We'll share creative things we'll do, and eventually I'll probably have a class that I'll do, which would be fun. But, so that's coming.
Do you see
yeah.
Do you see any new series in your life? Or?
Actually, I have one other series, my latest one, that's called Ancestral Series. And I have one painting of my 5 in the shop. It's Rising from the Ashes. And that is from my Ancestral Series. And that was inspired from a trip to Sedona. And I was sitting on a vortex in the middle of Sedona, because that's what you do.
Of course.
And the inspiration for that, it was almost like messages of wisdom is what comes through on those. It's different. Some of them actually almost start out kind of like my cosmos in the background, just very random colors. And I have actually, I'm working on a series in the Ancestral Series, within the Ancestral Series, that I showed a little bit on my Instagram the other day. So I'm playing around with that. It's a theme throughout all of the ones that I'm coming up with. I don't know what they will be called, but I know that they have to do with love. Love's the answer, as corny as that sounds. That's what it is, and that's what they're telling me. So that's what's coming through on that series that's coming up. So I don't know how many there will be in there. Right now I have, let's see, 4 of them. I have like a 48 by 48 piece was the first one. Then some different size ones that I think I have 4 going, mostly because I ran out of space. Or I would have grabbed more canvases and done more. But I'm experimenting with different ways of doing, basically almost different ways of doing the same thing. One of them, I ended up using a texture stuff in the background that I love, how it's making the technique that I use in my Cosmos series work with it, because it's going in the grooves of the texture and it's really fun. So yeah, just different color combinations, and so hopefully that's coming. So I do have something coming along on that.
So do I remember right that your family is like from South America? Or?
My dad was born in Buenos Aires, and my mom was born in Brooklyn. Her parents were from Finland, and yes, and my dad was a ballet dancer, and so he ended up making his way to New York City, dancing, and my mom was a dancer. That's how they met. And so that's how he ended up in New York. My mom died right before I turned 5, and because my dad was touring everywhere, I ended up with my sister in Buenos Aires with my grandmother.
So do you ever feel any Argentine influences hacking at you?
No, but I do listen to music, or like there's like this techno tango mix fusion. I love it. And so I listen to a lot of that. I love listening to music when I paint. I do have my music on. I have very eclectic mix. Anything from that, U2, I don't know, all kinds of stuff.
I'm just kind of curious.
Santana, everything.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Santana.
I have a little bit of everything.
Is that Oye Como Va?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And, but yeah, that's pretty much.
I just thought sometimes, just from hearing different culture, maybe you were picking up different. Of course, this would be very, very Argentine.
Yeah.
I mean, mystical realism. It's kind of mystical realism, right?
Well, and thinking about it, my parents were both extremely creative. My mom mostly danced. I don't know if she choreographed, but my dad was a choreographer for years. And he created really amazing work. And he was also could draw like crazy. So we used to sit there and draw together. So there's definitely that creative gene.
Sometimes I think dance is kind of 3D. I mean, if you think about it, it's moving, but it is a 3D installation art, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's funny because my dad, when I first started painting, he didn't get abstract work. He's like, yeah, I don't know what that is. But then he saw some of my paintings that I was working on, and he was like, I kind of really like that. And then one day I found out, yeah, I sent your website to my friend Miguel, and I was like, what? I was like, wow. And so I think he was really, really proud that I was doing that, because I was shocked that he sent my website to his friends.
Well, I know, student design is such an important part of dance also.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I'm hoping that he also saw the emotion and what's behind the abstract work, that it's not just paint thrown on a canvas. There's usually a lot more to it, because people that are attracted to it, it's that emotional thing that first draws you to it, to even look at it a little bit closer. And once you start studying it, then you get it at a deeper level. And some people just plain don't get it. But some people, if they give it a little bit of a chance, I had one time a couple came by one of my shows, and the lady said, my husband and I never agree on art, but we both love this piece. And I see underwater, and he sees the sky in it. And I was like, oh my God.
That's
and
awesome.
But they saw it totally from different perspectives, but it was the same piece, and they both were drawn to it for some reason, and they found something they loved in it. So I love that. So yeah, I think if people give it a chance and study it a little bit closer, with any abstract work, you'll find something, even if it's disturbing, sometimes a piece of abstract work, why is it making you disturbed? It's because it's challenging a thought or a feeling, and so then you have to look at it a little bit deeper, and that's where, if you're willing to open up, you learn a lot. So yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah, but
Okay, I'm yakking a lot. Do you have a question?
Oh, keep going.
so I don't know.
Blown away. I love it.
So,
I don't know. I learn a lot from my paintings. So yeah.
Another thing I wanted to say is that when you talked about people opening up to their art and their creativity, my mom was here, who's 97, but she always, I heard her talk about when she told a class or something, I don't know, that everybody should keep a coloring book and Crayolas in their desk and take a break during the day hours, which sounds like what you were saying, that everybody should hold themselves to their art, even if it's just filling in blocks of color.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think also it's sometimes, it's funny because when I first took that workshop that taught me, it was how to paint abstract work. We'd go watch the guy in the evening paint to see, what he was working on. And so watching him, he was painting stuff, and he kind of stopped, and he grabbed one color and painted over a bunch of it, and we went, and he's like, what? It wasn't working for me. And up to that point, I thought that artists had to have it all figured out in their head before you even put it down on canvas. And so that is so intimidating that no wonder you look at a blank canvas and you can't do anything. And so once I saw him do that, he's like, yeah, you don't have to have it all figured out. And if it's not working, you can change it. And sometimes it takes something drastic. If you're too stuck in something that's not working, go drastic, because even if you mess it up, it wasn't working in the first place. And I think, Kathy, you came by my studio one time when I was working on a big painting, and it was this huge canvas, and I was so intimidated by it. It's like, okay, I got to put color on it, so I just put a color on there, and I was like, okay, at least now it's not scary. And then it allowed me to go and approach it, because it was scary to look at a big white canvas. So sometimes just throw paint on it, and then from that point, your creativity can kick in and go, oh, I know what I can do with that.
There's a life lesson in that. Just throw paint on the canvas.
Exactly. If it's not working, just mess it up and then just go. So, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I witnessed one of yours in progress years ago, and I loved it. I saw it, and the next time I came to see it, totally different. You had just changed the whole thing. I was like, oh, but it was great. It was great. It was so shocking to me, though.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Learning to be able to take a chance at messing it up, it was hard to learn that, because we want everything to be so perfect, but if it's perfect, it turns out like something, or what everybody else has, like something that's already been created, like something that's already done. You can't create something new unless you're willing to take that chance to possibly mess it up. But even if it's messed up and you work with that, you can come up with something that you would have never thought of otherwise. And I think we're so scared to, we learn to make A's all the time, to do perfect, to dress perfect, to act perfect, that we're not allowed to make any mistakes. And it's in the mistakes that we can learn how to make something totally new and different. So that was really, really hard to do. Like, it's like, well, I kind of, like, usually if I like a little part, it's like, I try to paint all the way around it and avoid messing it up. And I'm like, no, it's keeping me from just creating. So sometimes I'm like, okay, I just got to do it. If it stays, it stays. If it changes, it changes. And yeah, that's hard.
That's a life lesson.
See, life lessons constantly while I'm painting. But it really is. It really is. Especially painting abstractly. I think there's so many life lessons in it. There really is.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
It really is.
Anything else? Are you exhausted?
I think that's it. Yeah, my feet kind of hurt. I had to wear heels, but anyway.
Thank you, Greta.
You're welcome.
Yes,
Thanks
that's
for letting me work with you.
Thank you. Ciao. Nice to see you guys. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.